happy to have you here. Can you hear me okay? Hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. So before we get into the word, let's do what we always do, which is to practice 3 ohms together. And remember, this is a clearing from the inside out, because ohm is the sound that created our universe. So what we want to do is we want to remember that have always been part of the universe because we live here, right? So we've been living here since the beginning of time, whatever that really might mean. And the chanting of Om moves through us and it brings this feeling. The more you do it with your heart, the more you have this feeling of that you and the divine have always been together. We've never been separate from one another. Never. So the sound that moves through us helps us to remember we are part of the cosmos. Oh. 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 Perfect. I do want you to remember that you can own any time in your life. You can own any time during your day. If you're really feeling just like your mind and all the things that are going around you is just all a flutter, you can always just help yourself to find a quiet place and do 3 ohms. Or you want to do a series of ohms, you do them in series of threes. So I just wanted to remind you about that because we live in some incredible times, not necessarily all incredibly good. Everything's moving so fast, and all countries are going through inner conflict. So if a country is going through inner conflict, that means the individuals who live in the country are going through inner conflict. If a country is at peace, it is because the people are looking for their own inner peace. So whatever we do as an individual affects the collective. We're always like thinking that we're just sort of like getting swept up and swept away with things. And why don't those people do this and that and da 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 da? Well, why doesn't this person take care of this part of the universe? Because as we take care of ourselves, we become more free. And so our word for August has been freedom. And for the Saboteur, it's been indecisiveness, which is it's a new Saboteur. I haven't had that one before, but it just seemed that, everybody's talking about choices to make, and especially it's an election year. Who are you going to vote for? What's your choice? What's your choice? What are we doing here? But freedom for me is always about the individual. Again, no matter what country that we live in, it's still about finding the inner freedom. And as you well know, we live here. We live in this country, and we have a lot of freedoms, outer freedoms, but yet as an individual, we're still very bound. We're not as free. We're not as joyful as we would like to be. And why would that be? Well, there's many reasons for it, but today we're talking about decisions. What decisions do you make that help you to stay free, that help you to wake up where you feel, wow, another day? A lot of times we wake up and we're like, oh my God, it's another day, another this. Ay, 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 ay. So there hasn't been that deep choice to, I am joy. I am free. And of course, people who might be hearing this for the first time might be like, well, that's not reality. Okay, I'm not quite sure what reality is, to be honest with you. The way that I live my life may not be what other people perceive as reality. But I'm here and I have my own level of peace, and that's my reality, right? So we all have our own realities, and we have the reality that is always flowing through all of us, which is the divine. It's very difficult for us to think of ourselves as divine because we can't see divinity in a lot of the people that we associate with. We're like, well, that person is always up to this, and that person's always up to that. And we feel very lost. We feel very helpless. We feel like we're always rushing from one thing to another. We can feel very invisible. But here we are, each of us, no matter how little we think of our own individual self, we are equal to everyone else in the sense that we all have this eternal Om inside of us. We all have the exact same beginning, which means we all have the same things inside of ourselves. It's hard to remember that because we're so used to looking at one another and feeling like, well, that person has everything. I want to find my way to get to what they have. And then we copy or mimic. And it's not even our own really true desire. It's just that we feel so empty and we think that they look full. We don't really know what they're full of. So it's probably best to go back to your emptiness and help yourself to become more full of peace, more full of joy. And I know that this is quite difficult, really. It's you have to practice it because the bombardments of non-joy, non-peace are hitting us every day. Boom, boom, boom. Because our society is not joyful, is not peaceful, not in the way where I could say it really is for everybody. It exists, joy and peace exists, it's available, but we're not choosing to practice it. By practicing it, it begins to create this energy that awakens inside of us. Peace and joy are inherent. You were born with it. It was with you before you got this physical body. You've always had it because, boom, what we call here on this side of the planet, the Big Bang, I call it the Om, opened up, and all of us spilled out of it. It's like we were like all one lotus flower and opened up, and we all tumbled out of it. We're all made of the exact same things. And joy and peace are two of those things that we're already made of. That's why they're inherent. But our daily life, it doesn't do this and we tumble out of it. No, it's more like a bomb, and it blows things into pieces. And then we feel scattered and we feel like I don't have all the things I need, because being in the world and all the bombastic conversations and things that happen really make us feel like we've been blown apart, and where are all my pieces? Pieces never went anywhere. But the vibration of pain gives us that feeling that joy and peace missed us, that somehow everybody else got it, but I didn't. But that's impossible. But in that moment, when you have so much hurt and pain, and you witness so much sorrow, it's hard to believe, it's hard to accept that it's always here. For me, I feel like, why would anybody pray if they didn't somewhere know that that's already available? Why would anybody own? Why would anybody say, God, help me? I mean, I think there's some atheists that might say that too, because it's inherent. It's inherent. So freedom, it's beautiful to live in a country that aspires to freedom. I wouldn't say we have perfect freedom because all the individuals would have it. But we aspire as a group to freedom. Would you look at this for a second? Looks like my head's cut off.
No, it's not.
Okay. So what I want to say to you about that is that freedom of movement begins in your soul, the part of you that never dies. So the soul or spirit or consciousness, whatever you like to call it, God, that part of us that is eternal has that memory that peace and joy are available. But it doesn't remember how to get back to it. It's there, but it's behind locked doors. And that's because of the choices that we make. We choose things that, how many times have you said to yourself, I'm going to go ahead and do this thing, even though I know it's bad for me? I'm going to go ahead and eat this thing, even though I know it's bad for me. I'm going to go ahead and go over here and see these people, even though I know it's not good for me. You see, we do know what's good for us, but we have to learn to be more discerning about the choices that we make. We have to slow down because we start to get panicky that I don't have it. I better hurry up and make this decision and do this because then I'll have what I want. What is it that you want? That $1 million? Let's check in with everybody who has $1 million right now and see if they are perfectly at peace, because that would be perfect. Then it's like, okay, take that road. Make $1 million, make as many as you want. But my point is, do you have peace? Do you desire peace as much as you desire to look outside of yourself and think, I have the freedom to make choices here to bring all of this to me. I can bring all kinds of stuff to me. And actually, after I get all that stuff and I look the way I really want to look in all of that stuff, finally I'll be happy. And then you get it and you're like, well, wait a minute. Now these people want this from me, and now I have to do that. And all these people follow me around because I am so gorgeous, and it drives me batty. Make whatever choices that you want, but always remember to make the choice about practicing peace. And we have to practice it in order to attain it because we don't remember it. We don't remember the feeling of peace consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously. We remember peace. We remember joy. But the only way to live in it is to practice it. People become so successful with their finances. I'm just using this because it's available. We can see this with our eyes. We can talk about it. They make so many choices for that that it becomes reality for them. So when we learn to make choices for abundance of peace, we could make that happen too. We can make that happen too. Easier. And because it's so clean and it's so powerful, it has staying power and it will stay with us. no matter what. Even if you have chronic pain is one of those things. Whew. I've had chronic pain. I do have chronic pain. I hate to say it like I do, but it's true. And it's one of those things that at this point of my life, I know that if I don't go towards my spiritual practice, I can become lost in it. Right? Any of you who've had chronic pain or have had bouts with pain because of things that have happened in your life, which is all of us. And you know, when you're in the thick of it, it's so difficult to think, okay, let's get some affirmations done. Let's do some oming. But if you can, that moment takes so much concentration that you're really doing something. It's the best medicine. Apparently, when we become enlightened and we're still here, it is the only medicine. There's no need for medicine because we've become completely peaceful, completely joyful, because we've practiced to bring it out of us, to bring it forth, to bring it forth. So I do understand how every day it's difficult to remember to practice. There's all of this stuff that's bombarding on us, and how many times we say, I don't have time for that. But I have time to do all this bad stuff that I know isn't good for me. I do not have time for meditation. And besides, my mind is faster than anybody else's in the universe. Minds get really fast sometimes because we practice chronic indecisiveness. And what it does is it's like a shovel, and it's digging this trench. The more indecisive we are, the more we get into it, more and more and more and more, until finally we're like feeling desperate. I have to make this decision right now. What if I make all the wrong choices? Well, you'll find your way out of that too. But when we learn that trusting ourselves first is really helpful when we begin to feel this chronic indecision. The first thing that helps, I think, is to become aware of that feeling of how bad could it really be? Let's go see. Let me spend some time here and look at every bad thing that could happen to me when I make this decision. Oh, but that's not enough. Now I've got to see everything that would be really bad for me if I made that decision. Now, is that what you would teach a child? The best way to make decisions is to scare the hell out of yourself. No. We all know the answer is no. Anybody not participated in that? We're all in good company. We all know these things, but we're not really talking about them. So all of us have this thing about making decisions. So first, we have this thing about scaring ourselves. And then we have the other part, the other layer here, which is comparing ourselves. But I want to be like that. I want what they have. But it's available, and I want to be like them because they look so happy. They look so beautiful. They look so wealthy. And here you are, this perfect manifestation of the divine. And you could see it in others. But for some reason or another, we leave ourselves out of the decision-making process. Instead of looking at it like this decision is going to change my life, which all decisions do, I feel like it's better to ask yourself, hmm, what kind of karma am I generating right now? And again, don't let that fall into the scary category. What I mean by karma is cause and effect. By making this decision, what kind of effect do I really want to have on my own life and on the lives of those around me? Because every decision that you make is an effect, because the decision is the cause, and every cause has an effect. And once you have that effect produces more causes, and so on and so forth. So all of our decisions are about karma, cause and effect. But we don't ask ourselves, what kind of effect will this has on us? Because we've already decided that if I really make myself look like everybody else or these special people that I perceive to be special, I will have what they have. No, they have what they have. You can't have what they have. It belongs to them. You can't have it. You have your own. You might have the exact same amount of money in your bank. You might have the exact same uh, situation with your body or with your mate, which this is almost impossible, but let's say that you do. You still can't have what they have. They still can't have what you have. It belongs to you. Your karma is created by you. Your reaction to what's going on around you creates effects, whether we like it or not, whether we're aware of it or not. Every decision that we make has consequences, has effects. So as when we're by ourselves, it's important for us to really value our inner peace and realize, oh my gosh, I've been trying to make this decision for the last 5 years. Do you know what that means? That means that person's been suffering for 5 years. Which means that there's a place inside of them that nothing else can get to because that place has so much attention. Now, I'm going to say this, but I want you to know I say it with compassion. What an incredible waste of time. And we're here for a very limited time. We all do what I'm saying. When I say we, I mean we. So life is, in this body, limited, very limited. And when we make choices like, well, I want to be special. So I'm going to look at all the people that I think are special and I'm going to imitate that so that I can be special. It just means that you've put on some really beautiful clothes. What's underneath those clothes? Is still you, the person who made these decisions to copy, to ignore the self. This kind of way of life can make us feel lonely from time to time because you really can convince yourself that you're the only one that's been left out of the big party. It's very difficult to not feel that way. It's more difficult to feel that way, of course, because it's painful. So it's hard for us to accept that, oh, yes, this lady, she seems nice and everything, but this chanting business, I don't know. Come on. How much can that really do? Let's get back to reality. Well, I just say, you can knock it all you like, but it just tells me you haven't tried it. And you're just kind of like deciding for yourself, deciding without any evidence. And the evidence comes from the practice. When you decide that the practice of peace is ridiculous, it's not reality, you haven't tried it. You haven't practiced it, but you're full of opinions about it. So I look at that as avoidance. And why would we ever avoid peace? Because a lot of people define peace as nothing, neutrality, powerlessness, being a doormat. But I don't know where there's any peace in that. Now let's take it away from the individual and take it out a little further. Not a lot of peace in the world in terms of countries, in terms of groups of people. Not a lot of peace there. Mm-mm. We have this thing where we say, we're going to have some peace talks. Okay, so we're going to be violent for all these days, and now we've made a date for a week to have peace talks. Oh dear. That formula doesn't work. I'm not saying we shouldn't have peace talks or anything like that, nothing extreme. But if as individuals, we practice peace, and when we know that there's going to be peace talks, and we really send energy to them, and we really ask, kindly remove the obstacles to peace, peace, peace at these peace talks. You are contributing to the welfare of humanity, which includes you and your loved ones and those that bug you and everyone else. Peace is strength. It is life-changing. It is world-changing. It requires inner strength. And that strength comes straight from our heart, where we make all of our decisions. Yeah, world peace. Not something that seems possible at the moment. But it is, but we have to take the time factor off of it. Say, well, that's just the way it is. It'll always be that way. So I'm just going to go ahead and go about my life like it is. Oh, that's fine. But those of you who feel what I'm saying in your heart, you know it's not fine. And if you know it's not fine, I ask you to practice it. That when you practice peace for yourself, ask for it to move through you to the collective any way that you want. As you do it, and it touches other people, and they begin to feel a little bit more peaceful, they might be inspired to practice it without anybody telling them to. This is how we helped better ourselves and one another. It doesn't take belief. Like, you could believe in things, but if you don't practice them, it doesn't tell me that you really believe in it. I could say I believe in peace, but if I don't practice it, I really don't. To believe in peace is to become it, is to know that it's available, to know that I'm part of that word. I am part of the word peace. And those that are committing atrocities, they too have this inherent in them. It's just that they decided they wanted to be known as powerful. Because power in itself is neutral. They want to be full of power. Powerful means full of power. Grateful means full of gratitude, right? Careful means full of care. Peaceful, full of peace. And these times is when we need it the most. When we look at the environment, it is not at peace. It is out of balance. And I know that some people don't want to hear this. I understand that. However, I suggest that you take the cotton out of your ears for just a moment, because the decisions that we make individually as well as collectively is creating this imbalance that we live in. I almost said it's outside, but it's everywhere. We've always been the cause of weather. In shamanic teachings, and remember, shamans are not only in the Americas, they're all over the world. They are the teachers of the balance of nature. And it's always been said that humans create weather. Long before we had factories, we all create weather because we have a relationship with our atmosphere. How could we not have a relationship to air? You breathe it every day, all day long, all night long. How could you not have a relationship with air? You drink water every single day. How could you not have a relationship with water? Who wants to drink dirty water? Nobody. Who wants to inhale dirty air? Nobody. But we want other people to take care of it for us. And if we all feel like that, you know what's going to happen. We're going to live in a big old chubby mess. Totally out of balance. So long before there were cars and factories, shamans always taught humans create weather. I could talk to you about that for hours, but I'm going to encourage you to ponder on it. Every fire that we would make for ourselves creates a change in the atmosphere. Every movement that we make, we're disturbing or recreating the natural resources. And all of that changes the weather. The weather. The balance between heat and water changes. If you like to make tea, I like to make tea. You know, start with cold water. You have to put fire into it. You know, you have to turn the stove on or whatever you have. And the fire creates steam, creates hot, hot weather with hot, hot water that can burn you. There's a little microcosm of climate change, how we affect weather. You take that tiny little example. Now you make it a factory instead of a tea kettle. And the fires that are created in the factory come up and they bubble. And they go out into the air. And they go into the water system just instead of a cup. We create weather. That's not a good thing. That's not a bad thing. It's an is thing. It depends on what we do with it. So you see, our decisions have implications not only for our own self, but for the lives of the people that you love and the people that you've never met. And so you may feel like you have no love for them. I say it to you this way so that you remember how powerful it is to be a human being. How powerful it is to be a human being, to be alive and aware that you have the inner freedom to make choices. A person who's in prison, really tortured by their own whatever happened, how they ever got there, and then their current situation, they are so bound that it's very difficult for them to make a decision to have peace with themselves. And there are certain people that are so generous on our planet who will go in to prisons and help them to know that they too even in that kind of an environment, have the ability to make choices that will increase their peace. Notice I said increase, which means the seed of peace never goes away, no matter how imprisoned your choices have made you. Whether it's literally being in prison or being in prison in your own home because of our mind chronically going back and forth or whatever else it is that's happened, we can all awaken peace because that is what we want. The more bound you are, the more imprisoned you are inside of yourself, you ache for peace. That's what you want. You want freedom. Freedom means to be released from that terrible feeling of being imprisoned. You want it. I want it. We want it. They want it. And it's inherent. But we sent it to prison. We bound it all up. We bound our peace up because we didn't think very much of it, because we would rather be like everybody else that we see and be powerful over other people. Yeah, we'll take their power away and we'll be the ones that are in charge. And then we'll make all the decisions and everybody will live the way that we think. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Not in a household and not in a country. No. That just tells me people who desire to have that much power over other people, that tells you how imprisoned they are. They're scared of peace. Isn't that weird? But they view peace as powerlessness. Like if you have peace, somehow or another, people can come in and overtake you. That's where we are. We've become very extreme. The yogis tell us we live in the Kali Yuga, which is the worst time possible, really. And you can see it like in the individuals and the collective, because we have devalued peace. But we chant freedom. Freedom! Good. Keep chanting it. Maybe you'll be interested in discovering it. Keep chanting it. Absolutely. Whether you have a narrow view of what freedom is or a really big, expansive view of what freedom is, you keep saying, I am freedom. Eventually, you'll start to go deeper with it and you'll realize that there's no difference between peace and freedom. Really. Once you have deep inner peace, you have freedom. And it's not the kind of freedom where you're like, I don't care what happens. I don't care what you do to me. No, it doesn't look like that. It looks like, what can I do to have more of this? What can I do to have so much that it overflows inside of me and moves onto other people? What can I do? What can I do to be more peaceful so I have more inner strength? To be able to, everybody that I talk to, make them feel that just a little bit because it's so inherent in me. That when they come into your aura, they feel it. And as they walk away, it's still with them until they forget about it. You see why we have to practice it? We forget about it. You can have it for a few moments, but then you forget about it. In meditation, you know I love meditation. But meditation is not very powerful if you don't practice your decisions when you're not in a state of meditation. If all day long you still treat yourself in a way that's, what am I going to do? Okay, worst case scenarios, let's line up. We got decisions to make, you know? And then you go and meditate and you're like, oh, yeah, there's peace, there's peace. Oh, but we have to learn to have the peace when we're not actually sitting for our meditation. It really cancels it all out. It does. I do understand that people don't want to meditate, but they don't know why they don't want to. But they kind of do because, like, when I talk to people, they, like I say, they always tell me, they, like all of them, the people that I talk to about meditation quite often say to me, again, like I told you earlier, I can't meditate. Please. No, basically, I'm too busy. I have a fast mind. I have things to do. Do you have a center? I hope so. I hope you become aware of it because, of course, you do. Or you wouldn't be able to see two sides to everything. When you are seeing two sides of everything, it means it's just an extension of this side and that side. A bird has two wings, right? They're not separate. There's a body, the same body that they're connected to, the same mind is sending them the information to do this. When we feel really indecisive, the best thing that we can do is to come to the center, is to practice being still. And it's difficult. It's difficult. I really want to emphasize that because I think sometimes spirituality and meditation are presented as like, just do this and woo, join the team, be happy. Holy moly. No, it's so much deeper. Please be happy and join the team, of course. But if we only do it so that we can get rid of one kind of pain, there'll be another pain that will take its place. We have karma that we brought with us, and we have not gone through all of our karma yet. So just because you get rid of one thing doesn't mean there isn't something behind it. But if you're practicing peace in your own way, you're already armed. You already know it's coming. And you can have the strength to not give in to it. And the other thing that's important to remember about karma and the practice of peace is that the more that you practice peace, you practice love, the more that you practice these things, they get so profound inside of you that they actually can override karma, negative karma from past lives. But if you do it with, hell yes, I'm interested in that, I'm going to go ahead and do it, it's the wrong motivation. It has to be natural inside of you. You have to have the will to do good. When the will to do good is ever present, it's conscious in you, then you override past karmas that are negative. Something to aspire to. Something to know that it's inherent. It's inherent. And when I talk about meditation, there's so many ways to meditate, and I've practiced lots of different ways until I found the one that's just right for me, which is the Jacqueline version of everything I've ever done. And that's what you want to do for you. The version of you of all the ones that you've done. Because when you have your own way of getting to that deeper part of yourself, you're much more likely to want to do it. Because it came from you, it came from your practice, it came from a series of decisions that you have made through your practice. So that's why you hear me so often when I talk about meditation, instead of talking about all the intricacies, because we could, but I feel like there's so many teachers out there that really are very good at teaching you all the little intricacies. I am going to tell you the most basic way. These are some of my these 3 words are one of my favorite sentences of all time because it I've learned these 3 words from practicing. When you're breathing, that's not the 3 words. Practice long and slow. The thoughts that create pain in our minds that make us feel like we're just are frenetic. There's no long and slow breathing going on. One of the best ways to change the rhythm of chaos in the mind is to teach yourself to breathe long and slow. Wherever you are, and you start to feel that little amplification going on because you're in a crowd of people that you don't know, and it starts to affect you, I know that feeling. Teach yourself to love yourself enough to come to your own rescue and do the most that you can do in that moment, which is to breathe long and slow. And as you breathe long and slow, you can even like have a mantra going. As you're breathing in, I am at peace. I am at peace. And for you to do it, like if you're in a crowd or you're at the courthouse, there's some energy that's kind of interesting, or the DMV. There's all kinds of interesting places that we go to. It's like, whoa. And you even like when you leave, it's still there. But if you're standing in line waiting in a place like that, a situation like that, and you teach yourself to breathe long and slow in that place, you will not catch what's going on in there. You won't be infected by all these vibrations that are there. It won't steal your peace. It won't have the capacity to bounce off of you. It won't get deep into your system. So that means you won't carry it home and bark at your kids or whatever is there, your kitty cats, whatever it may be. You won't because you didn't catch that. You didn't catch that. You practiced inner peace. And by the time you get home, you're like, whew, oh my gosh, thank God I'm in this abode of peace. And you want to be with your beautiful animals or with your beautiful children or your mate or to be with your beautiful self. You won't have been so interrupted. Your flow of peace will be better for you. Your sleep will be better for you. When there's more peace, we all know what it's like to have troubles going to sleep or to wake up because you're thinking the worst case scenario is so bad that they're worse than a nightmare. They wake you right up. Wow. So are you at your best the next day to do what you need to do? No, of course not, because we've stolen that from ourselves by giving into panic. And panic is a type of fear, of course. And what are we panicking about? Might not really be life-changing decisions. It might be that we just want people to see us in a particular way. And how could I make this so that my image is so clear to them that they'll see me like this? That can make you go back and forth a lot too. You want to practice how you want to be. You want to be present. If you have something to do tomorrow that really requires a mind that's going to make decisions out of balance, from balance, you have to practice balance. We all do. And if you think peace is just sitting in some room taking, again, you're just taking it, somebody's yelling at you and screaming at you, and you just take it, that's not peace. If you can't leave the room, 'cause that's the first thing I would recommend. But if you can't leave the room, maybe this is your boss and you know that if you don't sit there, you don't work. And you have babies, furry babies, human babies. You can still practice your breathing. Oh, you already you already have to have a reasonable practice already in order for you to be able to do that. But you can do that. And it makes a difference. It'll make you remember that you know who you are, no matter how much this person is trying to tell you how bad you are. What a bad person you are. What a bad worker you are. What a bad this. What a bad that you are. You have the power to not take that in. As you have a practice of peace, it protects you from people taking their energy and insisting that it go inside of you. You see, I don't even like to say these words. Weapons, I was thinking, pardon me for even bringing this word to our space, but bullets are designed to go into a person to tear them apart. Now, there's hardly any difference between thoughts and bullets. And the more practiced we are at firing these thoughts to other people before they fire back, I guess, the worse off we all are. The people who are firing these thoughts into our minds to hurt us, mm, they too will be in the position of somebody doing that to them. And it goes on and on and on. But if you practice peace, you begin to be stronger than those thoughts that are being projected as bullets. You will be able to project thoughts of peace out into the world. I know it would be really hard to send thoughts of peace to somebody who's shooting these really bad thoughts at you in that moment. I get that. But I do want you to know that the possibility is true, that you can attain that. You can attain the ability to be able to be perfectly still, and the thoughts of hate move right through you. Lofty goals, right? Lofty goals. And those goals can be attained. The practice of peace is your greatest armor, your greatest shield. I know that a lot of times very nice people give teachings out about if you just think of a color and wrap it around you, other people's thoughts can't get into you. Mm, it's very sweet, and it comes from a really good place, but it doesn't work. Your shield to protect you, so to speak, comes from your inner self, comes from your own thoughts, come from deep inside of you. And those thoughts do have color, but just focusing on the color won't give you that vibration unless you match it with your thoughts. So I'm not saying that it's worthless. I'm just saying there's more to it. It's deeper than that, really deeper than that. So over this next month, we're kind of staying on this same theme about balance and decisiveness. And over the next month, this month, September, we've had this word many times, I suppose. But the word is faith. Faith. Now, the saboteur of faith this time, we've had this saboteur before. It's pretty intense, but it's the word betrayal. When we have faith in ourselves, I learned this from the yogis. They're just like, eventually we'll all be yogis. So when I say about them, it's human beings that have lived a little longer than the rest of us. They've practiced a lot longer than the rest of us. And so they emanate these teachings because they've become them. So they say, when you have faith in yourself, you have faith in God. When you have true faith in God, you have faith in yourself. Because there is no difference between yourself and God. So when I started talking to you, I was telling you about the Big Bang, about the time when the universe opened and the sound of Om was our Big Bang. And it opened us up. And all that was always inherent in that seed came tumbling out and created all of these beings, because we were all seeds that came from the one plant, the universe. It opened up, and all that was within it came out and created the planets and the solar systems and the galaxies and space and dimensions, seen and unseen. So big. And we are part of that. So we have to all learn not to betray ourselves so that we don't betray others and we are not betrayed by others. Right? So we don't want to focus on the word betrayal. We just want to know that when we give in to self-hate from this level to this level, we are betraying ourselves because we are divine. And that takes practice to really feel that we are divine, that this God that we seek lives within us, lives within us. Always has, always will, because that's eternity. One of my friends, she always refers to the divine or to God as eternity. And she'll say, I was talking to eternity last night. And every time she says that, makes me just feel so beautiful, because she says it with such depth. I was talking to eternity last night. I hope that over this next month that you teach yourself to talk to eternity. Because there's no difference between you and what we call God. We are eternal. Talk to eternity. Help yourself so that you remember you've never been alone. You are part of everything else. It's a lot to learn. And we have our way to be able to do this. It's all right. Don't hurry. You'll just trip yourself. Take your time. Make every time you sit to meditate, do it with your heart, not because you're doing this, right? So I just want to thank you for being here today. And remember that we do have meditation afterwards. It's in about 5 minutes. And so let's do 3 ohms together to bring us all together here. Remember, Om is inherent in you. Om. 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 May peace be with you, and may it roll from you to all others. See you in a little bit.